Government Bill, first reading. Appropriation Bill 2023, second reading. The Financial Secretary. Mr. President, honorable members, Mr. President, honorable members, and fellow citizens, good morning. I move that the Appropriation Bill 2023 be read a second time. This is the first budget of the current term government, and also the first to be presented since Hong Kong's emergence from the epidemic and resumption of quarantine-free travel with the mainland and the international community, with a clear direction ahead and specific goals in mind. Hong Kong is in a new stage of the journey towards vigorously pursuing our economic growth and moving to high-quality development and enhancing people's quality of life. The current external environment remains severe and ever-changing, and the government has also endured a number of stress tests over the past few years. Yet, amid the adversities, the government's financial position, as well as Hong Kong's financial system, have displayed remarkable resilience and remained healthy, and our community at large is stable. The theme of this year's budget is leaping forward steadily. Together, we bolster prosperity under our new vision. Our economy is at the earliest recovery stage, and members of the public, as well as a large number of enterprises, are still weighed down by tremendous pressure and require support. Meanwhile, in the face of intense competition and imminent development needs, we have to fully and speedily press ahead with high-quality economic development, which requires forward planning and a front-loaded approach. Overcoming resource constraints will require innovative solutions. Overall, we will take a moderately liberal fiscal stance this year. Hence, this is still a deficit budget. More than 80% of the resources involved for the budget initiatives will benefit the general public and small and medium-sized enterprises, or SMEs. We will support people in need to the best of our ability and sustain the impetus to economic recovery in moving towards high-quality development. I will elaborate on this in the following chapters. Economic situation in 2022. In 2022, the external environment deteriorated markedly, with the Russia-Ukraine conflict driving up international energy and commodity prices and rampant global inflation. Major central banks sharply tightened their monetary policies, posing a drag on the performance of advanced economies. The mainland's economic growth also slowed amid the subdued global economy and the fluctuating epidemic situation. The International Monetary Fund, or IMF, estimated that global economic growth decelerated to 3.4% last year. Amid moderated growth across major economies, decelerated growth in manufacturing and trading activities in Asia, as well as the continued disruptions to cross-boundary truck movements between Hong Kong and the mainland caused by the epidemic, Hong Kong's total exports of goods posted a notable decline of 13.9% in real terms last year. As for trade in services, exports of transport services and financial services both declined. Exports of travel services recorded a surge alongside the progressive relaxation of quarantine requirements for visitors, but remained far below the pre-epidemic level. Total exports of services declined mildly by 0.9% for the year as a whole. Domestically, the outbreak of the fifth wave of the epidemic early last year and tightened financial conditions weighed heavily on domestic demand. Nevertheless, with the local epidemic situation stabilizing and the government's counter-cyclical measures and disbursement of consumption vouchers making key impact, employment conditions improved continuously. Private consumption expenditure has gradually revived since the second quarter, but still recorded a drop of 1% for the year as a whole, dampened by the subdued economic outlook and rising borrowing costs. Overall investment expenditure fell by 8.5%. With both external and domestic segments hit hard, the Hong Kong economy contracted by 3.5% in 2022. Nevertheless, the labor market showed improvement, with the seasonally adjusted unemployment rate declining gradually to the latest 3.4% after rising to 5.4% early last year. Inflation remained moderate in overall terms, while prices of individual items such as food, energy, and clothing and footwear recorded more notable increases. Price pressures on other major components were largely contained. Private housing rentals also fell. Netting out the effect of the government's one-off measures, the underlying inflation rate of about 45,000. The non-residential property market also turned quiet. Economic outlook for 2023 and medium-term outlook. The market generally expects that the negative impact on the global economy of the sharp tightening of monetary policies by major central banks will become more apparent this year. Heightened geopolitical tensions will also add to the downside risks. Last month, the IMF forecast that global economic growth would slacken further to 2.9% this year. Sluggish external demand will continue to affect the mainland's exports this year. Yet, the mainland economy is resilient and has solid fundamentals as economic activities quickly revive from the epidemic and the various economic stabilization measures implemented over the past year gradually yield results. The growth of the mainland economy is expected to accelerate visibly. The economic growth of the US and Europe is expected to decelerate further this year. The market anticipates that US interest rates will rise further in the first half and stay elevated for some time, which is expected to further dampen demand. For the Eurozone economy, economic sentiment remained subdued. The pace of economic growth will soften notably due to the continued impact of monetary policy tightening and the Russia-Ukraine tension. Given the further weakening of growth momentum in advanced economies, Hong Kong's exports of goods will still face severe challenges this year. However, the accelerated growth of the mainland economy, coupled with the lifting of restrictions on cross-boundary truck movement, should alleviate part of the pressure. As for exports of services, with the removal of the quarantine requirements for inbound persons and the normal cross-boundary travel between Hong Kong and the mainland, the number of visitors' arrivals is expected to see a strong rebound. Domestically, as overall economic sentiment improves in tandem with the revival of economic activities and the rapid return of Hong Kong's exchanges with the mainland and the world to normalcy, private consumption will increase. The better economic prospect will also be conducive to fixed asset investment, though tightened financial conditions will remain a constraint. Having regard to the above factors, I forecast that the Hong Kong economy will see a visible rebound this year, with growth of 3.5 to 5.5% for the year as a whole. In respect of prices, domestic cost pressures will increase alongside the economic recovery. Despite some moderation, external price pressures will remain notable this year. Taking all factors into account, I forecast that the underlying inflation rate and the headline inflation rate will rise to 2.5% and 2.9% respectively this year. In the medium to long term, the Hong Kong economy will see abundant opportunities. Our country pursues high-quality development and will remain reasonable growth. Other emerging Asian economies will also continue to register relatively fast growth. Meanwhile, advanced economies such as the US and the Eurozone are expected to gradually return to their long-term growth trends after the current challenges. Hong Kong's advantages under one country, two systems are unique. Besides, the current term government strives to forge a better integration of a capable government and an efficient market, proactively strengthening competitiveness, identifying new impetus for growth, and expanding economic capacity. The various measures will yield results gradually. Considering all the above factors and taking into account the catch-up growth in the initial period arising from the continued return of economic activities from the epidemic to normalcy, I forecast that the Hong Kong economy will grow by an average of 3.7% per annum in real terms from 2024 to 2027, higher than the trend growth of 2.8% during the decade before the epidemic. The underlying inflation rate is forecast to average 2.5% per annum. Gearing up for speedy recovery on the path to normalcy, I believe the Hong Kong's economy will visibly recover this year, and I remain positive. However, economic recovery is still in its initial stage, and there is a need for our people and businesses to regain vigor for being hit by the epidemic over the past 3 years. Having regard to the financial affordability of the government, I will introduce the following targeted measures to support people and enterprises and boost the momentum of our economic revival. Post-epidemic recovery, strive to attract tourists and elevate Hong Kong's image. Hong Kong has long been a world-renowned event capital. Organization of mega events, international conferences, and exhibitions is especially crucial to drawing high value-added visitors. It is also a segment of the tourism industry in which countries around the world are striving to establish a foothold. We must spare no effort in staging and supporting more international mega events and activities to further augment our image and enhance our competitiveness as an events capital. International events. To enhance Hong Kong's international image, the government will earmark $100 million for attracting more mega events with significant visitor appeal and tourism promotional effect to be staged in Hong Kong. Besides, the Hong Kong Tourism Board, or HKTB, will spend over $250 million to sustain its efforts in organizing or helping promote major tourism events, including the Hong Kong Pop Culture Festival to be held for the first time, and the Hong Kong Wine and Dine Festival to be held in physical mode again for the first time since the epidemic, the Hong Kong International Dragon Boat Races, Hong Kong Cyclothon, Hong Kong Sevens, and Arts Basel in Hong Kong, etc. Major conventions and exhibitions. The Hong Kong Trade Development Council, or HKTDC, will hold more than 10 major conferences and exhibitions in the coming months. It is anticipated that these events will attract over 500,000 participants. Moreover, as this year marks the 10th anniversary of the Belt and Road Initiative, the government will continue to co-organize the annual Belt and Road Summit with the HKTDC to actively promote Hong Kong as a functional platform and the key link for the Belt and Road Initiative. The government will allocate additional funding of about $200 million to the HKTB for stepping up its efforts in securing the staging of more international meetings, incentive travels, conventions, and exhibitions, or MICE, of various scales and types in respect of finance, innovation and technology, or INT, medicine, etc., in Hong Kong to attract high value-added visitors and consolidate Hong Kong's position as a premier MICE destination in the region. The Hong Kong Monetary Fund, or HKMA, plans to jointly organize an international conference on banking supervision in Hong Kong with the Basel Committee on Banking Supervision next month, and is discussing with the Bank for International Settlements the holding of the Central Bank Governors Meeting in Hong Kong in the latter half of the year. As regards the Global Financial Leaders Investment Summit organized for the first time in November last year, it will be held again this year to showcase Hong Kong's unique edges and investment environment. Promote Hong Kong. On promoting Hong Kong, we should invite visitors to come here and, at the same time, raise our city's profile around the world. The task force on promoting and branding Hong Kong, led by myself, comprises distinguished personalities from various sectors of society with the aim of exploring novel ways to promote Hong Kong to the world. Government departments and related units will make concerted efforts to promote Hong Kong's new advantages under the direction of the task force. I will provide a grant of $50 million for supporting the relevant work. Hello Hong Kong. To bolster Hong Kong's economic and business advantages, the government launched a large-scale global promotional campaign themed Hello Hong Kong in early February. The campaign aims to showcase and promote the city's new bright economic prospects, new cultural vision, and new travel experience in a holistic manner, with a view to attracting as early as possible more business travelers and tourists from the mainland and all over the world to visit Hong Kong. The Airport Authority Hong Kong, or AA, has announced that it would give away free air tickets while the HKTB is handing out gift packs to inbound to enhance promotion efforts while tourism is on the road to recovery. In this connection, the HKTB would distribute Hong Kong goodies to 1 million inbound visitors, offering them shopping and dining privileges. In addition, the HKTB will provide greater incentive to attract visits of international cruises with a view to facilitating the revival of the cruise industry and consolidating Hong Kong's position as a major cruise port in the region. Happy Hong Kong. We will soon launch the Happy Hong Kong campaign for the general public, providing them opportunities to share happy and enjoyable moments together, thereby bringing more joy to the community. The campaign will focus on activities related to gourmet experiences, fun, amusement, and exciting ambience. Apart from providing members of the public with more diverse choices of fun and interesting activities in Hong Kong, it will also help stimulate local consumption and boost our economy. One of the major themes for this series of events is the launch of a gourmet marketplace, under which large-scale food fairs will be organized in various locations across the territory in the coming months, bringing together mainland Hong Kong and overseas gourmet food with a view to enabling the public and visitors enjoy the good food in the city. The Home and Youth Affairs Bureau will assist in coordinating the relevant events, details of which will be announced later. Another highlight is the organization of a large-scale Sea-Land Carnival by the HKTB in summer, with Victoria Harbour as the stage. Apart from a wide range of dancing, music, and street performances presented by performing groups from around the world, a brand new lighting show will also be staged to offer a new experience to the public and visitors while they are enjoying the spectacular view of the harbour. Additionally, in support of the Happy Hong Kong campaign, organizations like the West Kowloon Cultural District Authority, Hong Kong Disneyland, Ocean Park Hong Kong, Hong Kong Cyberport Management Company Limited or Cyberport, and the Hong Kong Science and Technology Parks Corporation will each hold themed fairs, carnivals, or other activities this year, issuing consumption vouchers. The Hong Kong government implemented two rounds of consumption voucher scheme in the past 2 years, under which electronic consumption vouchers of $5,000 and $10,000 were dispersed respectively to over 6 million eligible residents. The initiatives were well received by the community. Having regard to the current economic situation, people's livelihood, and the government's financial position, I will issue electronic consumption vouchers again this year with a total value of $5,000 to each eligible Hong Kong permanent resident and new arrival aged 18 or above in 2 installments. To facilitate early disbursement of consumption vouchers, the government will first disburse consumption vouchers valued at $3,000 in April this year, using the registration data of last year's scheme. The remaining vouchers will be dispersed together with the vouchers for the new eligible persons in the middle of this year. In line with the arrangement for last year's scheme, eligible persons who have come to live in Hong Kong through different admission schemes or to study in Hong Kong will receive vouchers in half value, that is, $2,500 in total. We will announce the details as soon as possible. Supporting enterprises. For easing the operating pressure of businesses, I proposed first, reducing profits tax for the year of assessment 2022 to 23 by 100%, subject to a ceiling of $6,000. The reduction will be reflected in the final tax payable for the year of assessment 2022 to 23. This measure will benefit 134,000 businesses and reduce government revenue by $720 million. Second, providing rates concession for non-domestic properties for the first 2 quarters of 2023 to 24, subject to a ceiling of $1,000 per quarter for each rateable property. This measure is estimated to involve 430,000 non-domestic properties and reduce government revenue by $740 million. And third, starting from July 2023, granting 50% rental or fee concession to eligible tenants of government premises and eligible short-term tenancies and waivers under the Lands Department for 6 months until the end of 2023. This measure will reduce government revenue by approximately $1 billion. The government has been enhancing the SME Financing Guarantee Scheme, or SFGS, continuously over the years to meet the financing needs of SMEs during economic downturns. As at the end of 2022, loans amounting to more than $230 billion have been approved under the SFGS, benefiting over 53,000 enterprises. As the Hong Kong economy is picking up steadily this year, it is expected that commercial financing will gradually return to be adjusted by the market. That said, it takes time for SMEs to consolidate their strengths on the way to recovery. I have therefore decided to extend the application period of all guarantee product under the SFGS from the end of June 2023 to the end of March 2024, thus giving SMEs more room to adjust and secure a firm footing. To support cross-boundary passenger transport and the tourism industry, the government will, drawing on the experience in implementing the above SFGS, launch new schemes to offer fully guaranteed loans for eligible passenger transport operators and licensed travel agents. It is estimated that the above schemes will involve a total loan guarantee amount of about $2.7 billion. Details of the schemes, which is expected to be launched within April this year, will be announced in due course. The government will also extend the travel agents incentive scheme, which is due to expire by the end of March 2023 for 3 months, with a view to facilitating the speedy recovery of the industry. In addition, the government will inject $30 million into the Information Technology Development Matching Fund scheme for travel agents, with the aim of encouraging the industry to undergo upgrade and transformation by making use of technology. Supporting the general public, I will introduce the following one-off relief measures to alleviate the economic pressure on the public. First, reducing salaries tax and tax under personal assessment for the year of assessment 2022 to 23 by 100%, subject to a ceiling of $6,000. The reduction will be reflected in the final tax repayable for the tax of assessment 2022 to 23. This measure will benefit 1.9 million taxpayers and reduce government revenue by $8.5 billion. Second, providing rate concession for domestic properties for the first 2 quarters of 2023 to 24, subject to a ceiling of $1,000 per quarter for each rateable property. This measure is estimated to involve 3.03 million domestic properties and reduce government revenue by $5.2 billion. Third, providing an allowance to eligible Social Security recipients equal to 1/2 of a month of the standard rate, comprehensive Social Security assistance payment, old age allowance, old age living allowance, or disability allowance. This measure will involve an additional expenditure of about $2,721 million. Similar arrangements will apply to recipients of the Working Family Allowance, involving an additional expenditure of about $116 million. Fourth, extending the temporary special measures under the public transport fare subsidy scheme for a period of 6 months till October 2023 to provide commuters with a subsidy amounting to 1/3 of their actual monthly public transport expenses in excess of $200, subject to a maximum of $500 per month. This measure will provide an additional expenditure of $1.08 billion. It is estimated that the scheme will benefit about 3.5 million commuters per month. Fifth, paying the examination fees for school candidates sitting for the 2024 Hong Kong Diploma of Secondary Education examination, incurring an expenditure of $151 million. And sixth, granting each eligible residential electricity account of a subsidy of $1,000. This measure will involve an expenditure of about $2.9 billion. The current arrangement of distributing electricity charges relief of $50 a month to each eligible residential electricity account will be extended to the end of 2025. This measure will involve an expenditure of about $3.5 billion and benefit around 2.9 million residential households. Besides, I propose to increase the basic child allowance and the additional child allowance for each child born during the year of assessment from the current $120,000 to $130,000, starting from the year of assessment 2023 to 24. This measure is estimated to benefit 324,000 taxpayers and reduce tax revenue by $610 million a year, opening up new horizons together, promoting high-quality development. The report to the 20th National Congress of the Communist Party of China emphasizes that the pursuit of high-quality growth development is first and foremost to build a modern socialist country in all respects. Likewise, as Hong Kong advances towards the new stage from stability to prosperity, we must also closely follow this theme. This is how we put making good use of Hong Kong's advantages to meet the needs of our country into practice. It is also the only way to attain better development for ourselves. After the past several decades of development, Hong Kong has penned many success stories, but also faced development bottlenecks in some areas. We must push forward our economy towards high-quality development. We need to persistently drive development through innovation and technology, create new growth impetus through institutional enhancements and policy innovations, and progress towards green transformation by vigorously promoting the development of green and low-carbon technology and industries. The pace of profound changes facing the world that is unseen in a century is accelerating, and global competition is getting more intense. We need to make better use of our unique advantages under one country, two systems to fully grasp the mainland's enormous market, bring together local and overseas talent, capital and other resources, and to retain mutual benefit that can be shared by everyone and bring about better development for everyone under the operation of an open economy. The current term government will better integrate a capable government with an efficient market. In areas where government leadership is needed, we dare to lead, take full responsibility, and push forward at an accelerated pace. While for areas where the power of market forces is required, we will create a conducive environment and conditions for market forces to unleash their power. These will forcefully push forward high-quality development in Hong Kong. Digital economy. Digital economy plays a crucial role in the course of achieving high-quality development. To speed up the process of digital economy development in Hong Kong, the Digital Economy Development Committee, chaired by me, is undertaking in-depth studies on four major areas to explore, namely, the digital infrastructure needed to promote the development of digital economy, cross-boundary data transfer in a convenient, efficient, and secure manner, digital transformation of enterprises, and human resources support. The four subgroups under the committee will provide specific recommendations to the government this year. Digital infrastructure, artificial intelligence supercomputing center. The availability of adequate computing infrastructure is a prerequisite for promoting the development of scientific research and artificial intelligence or AI industries in Hong Kong. To this end, the government will conduct a feasibility study on the development of an AI supercomputing center. The study will be completed in 2023 to 24. I am smart. Developing into a smart city and a digital economy can help improve people's quality of life. I will earmark a sum of about $200 million to enhance the operation of the I Am Smart platform so as to provide members of the public with a more convenient one-stop digital services and improve user experience. The wider use of I Am Smart will further promote smart government and digital transformation of the whole society. Encourage the telecommunications industry to invest in infrastructure. Advanced and more comprehensive telecommunications infrastructure is an important cornerstone of our economic development. To encourage telecommunications network operators to more actively invest in infrastructure for providing better communication services to companies and the public, I propose to provide tax deduction for the spectrum utilization fees to be paid by future successful bidders of radio spectrum. Digital transformation. Many local SMEs are actively seeking digital transformation for value creation of their business. To further expedite the pace of digital transformation of enterprises, I will set aside $500 million for Cyberport to launch a digital transformation support pilot program under which subsidies will be provided on a one-to-one matching basis to assist SMEs in applying ready-to-use basic digital solutions, thus facilitating their digitalization. The government also spares no efforts in supporting enterprises to use technologies to enhance productivity and upgrade or transform their business processes. For example, the technology voucher program, which is widely received by industries, has supported over 20,000 applications since launch to assist enterprises in better developing digital support facilities as well as carrying out upgrade and transformation. The Hong Kong Productivity Council, or HKPC, launched the BizExpense Easy One-Stop online platform last September in order to make the funding application process smoother. Web3. The internet has been undergoing continuous development and evolution. Every generation of technological reform brings about new applications and fresh opportunities, and even disrupts the mode of business operation. The third generation internet, or Web3, currently in its startup period, has the same huge potential. We must keep up with the times and seize this golden opportunity to spearhead innovation development. Cyberport established a Web3 hub at Cyberport early this year. I will allocate $50 million to expedite the Web3 ecosystem development by, among other things, organizing major international seminars to enable the industry and enterprises to better grasp frontier tech development and to promote cross-sectoral business cooperation, as well as arranging a wide array of workshops for young people. Virtual assets, or VA, are an integral part of a vibrant Web3 ecosystem. The policy statement on VA issued in October last year has set out the government's policy stance and approach towards the relevant sector. The market has responded proactively. Over the past few months, a large number of innovative enterprises with potential have been considering setting up business in Hong Kong. For the next step, I will establish and lead a task force on VA development with members from relevant policy bureaus, financial regulators, and market participants to provide recommendations on the sustainable and responsible development of the sector. International Green Tech and Green Fi Center. Promoting green economy for sustainable development is an important theme globally, and our country is advancing towards the 3060 dual carbon target, bringing together resources such as technological innovation, finance, commerce, and manpower. This economic model can drive economic transformation and sustainable development, generate demand, and create strong impetus for growth. The whole industry cluster is growing rapidly, but the formation of a leading green technology and finance cluster has yet to be seen around the world. In fact, Hong Kong has an edge when it comes to establishing an international green technology and financial center. INT development over the years has pulled together quite a number of green technology enterprises and talents. The government also takes the lead in promoting the application of green technology, including setting up the Green Tech Fund. Hong Kong plays the role of a leader and a first mover in green finance and innovation. Last week, we successfully issued $800 million of tokenized green bond, the first of its kind issued by a government globally. This has accentuated Hong Kong's capacity in providing a flexible and favorable legal and regulatory environment for innovative forms of bond issuance. As for the 5.75 billion US dollars equivalent of government green bonds denominated in US dollar, euro, and RMB issued last month, it was the first ESG, or environmental, social, and governance bond issuance in Asia. On promoting the adoption of green financing by enterprises, grants have been approved for over 200 related debt instruments issued in Hong Kong since the launch of the Green and Sustainable Finance Grant Scheme in 2021, involving a total underlying debt issuance of nearly 70 billion US dollars. Furthermore, the launch of Core Climate by the Hong Kong Exchanges and Clearing Limited, or HKEX, last October for the trading of international voluntary carbon credit signifies a critical step forward in the development of carbon marketplace in Hong Kong. We must actively seize the opportunities brought by our country's dual carbon strategies at the right time. We should also leverage our strengths under one country, two systems, and as an international financial center to accelerate the development of Hong Kong into an international center for green technology and finance. We will proceed in 5 directions, namely, first, building a green technology ecosystem to attract top-notch enterprises or startups to set up their operations, encourage efficient interaction among the industry, academia, and research sectors to commercialize R&D outcomes and boost the demand for green technology through policy support. Second, green finance application and innovation, facilitating green projects to obtain capital more conveniently and flexibly through financial innovations apart from traditional financing channels. Third, green certification and alignment with international standards. Fourth, training for talent. And fifth, enhancing the exchange and cooperation with the Guangdong, Hong Kong, Macau, Greater Bay Area or GBA and the international market. I will set up a Green Technology and Finance Development Committee, inviting industry representatives from green technology, green finance, and green standard certification, etc., to assist in the formulation of an action agenda for promoting the development of Hong Kong into an international green technology and finance center. The government will organize an international Green Tech Week at the end of this year to pull together representatives, enterprises, and investors from the green technology industries around the world.
Attract Enterprises, Office for Attracting Strategic Enterprises. With a new mindset to proactively reach out, we have established the Office for Attracting Strategic Enterprises, or OASIS, the Advisory Committee on Attracting Strategic Enterprises, and the dedicated teams for attracting businesses and talents, with the purpose of attracting representative and high-potential strategic enterprises from around the globe, thereby enhancing our competitiveness and accelerating the development of industries. Since its establishment at the end of last year, OASIS has already contacted quite a number of strategic enterprises. It is actively following up on these cases, assisting these enterprises in establishing or expanding their businesses in Hong Kong, attracting overseas companies to redomicile in Hong Kong. Hong Kong has enjoyed the competitive edge as a hub for multinational enterprises and has a headquarters economy. To further explore market opportunities, we will introduce a mechanism to provide facilitation for companies domiciled overseas, particularly enterprises with a business focus in the Asia-Pacific region, for redomiciliation to Hong Kong, so that these companies may utilize our favorable business environment and professional services. We will conduct consultation and submit legislative proposals in 2023 to 24. Hong Kong Investment Corporation Limited. In his 2022 policy address, the chief executive proposed to establish the Hong Kong Investment Corporation Limited, or Hong Kong IC, to optimize the use of fiscal reserves for promoting the development of the economy and industries. The HKIC enhances our ability to attract enterprises and investment and facilitates industrial cooperation between Hong Kong and our sister cities in the GBA. The HKIC has commenced operation and is identifying quality partners to make strategic investments in a timely manner, pooling talent, measures to attract talents. The 2022 policy address has proposed an array of initiatives to trial for outside talents alongside the government's efforts to nurture local talents, with a view to contributing to our economic development. These initiatives include a Top Talent Pass scheme and the establishment of Hong Kong Talent Engage. Furthermore, the Labor and Welfare Bureau is currently updating the talent list for completion within next month to better reflect the manpower demands of different professions. The LWB will also commence a new round of manpower projections in the middle of this year to help the government formulate appropriate strategies to address the overall manpower demand. Capital Investment Entrance Scheme. With a view to further enriching the talent pool and attracting more new capital to Hong Kong, we will introduce a new capital investment entrance scheme. Applicants shall make investment at a certain amount in the local asset market, excluding property. Upon approval, they may reside and pursue development in Hong Kong. Details of the scheme will be announced later. Actively aligned with national development strategies. All along, Hong Kong's destiny has been closely intertwined with the destiny of our country. In the prosperous development of our country over a long period, Hong Kong has always actively participated and made irreplaceable contributions, and at the same time, it has achieved a higher level of development in a wider range of areas. Our country is advancing towards the second centenary goal and is now in the critical opening period of the journey. As Hong Kong integrates into the national development, we must fully leverage our unique advantages and irreplaceable role under one country, two systems to make proactive contributions to the modernization of our country. The GBA is the best entry point for Hong Kong to integrate into the national development. It has a population of 86 million and is also the country's most affluent area. Innovative and vibrant, the GBA economy has full-fledged and high-quality production chains and strong complementarity with the Hong Kong economy. By joining hands with our GBA sister cities to achieve synergy in the development of a number of major industries, Hong Kong can certainly spearhead high-quality development of the entire GBA. International Innovation and Technology Center. Hong Kong has to better capitalize on its advantage as an international INT center. Apart from strengthening cooperation with the mainland and overseas, we should also make good use of the vast mainland market, as well as the regional advantages of the GBA. Furthermore, we have to pool the efforts of the government, industry, academic, and research sectors to commercialize research and development R&D results and promote the development of INT industry. The government has been stepping up efforts in promoting INT development through an array of measures over the past few years, which have begun to yield solid results. The number of startups in Hong Kong has increased to about 4,000, with over 10 unicorns. Hong Kong has been Asia's largest and the world's second largest fundraising hub for biotechnology companies in recent years. To seize the immense opportunities arising from the 14th Five-Year Plan and the GBA development, the government promulgated the Hong Kong Innovation and Technology Development Blueprint at the end of last year to map out the broad development directions and major strategies for future INT development from the perspective of top-level planning, with a view to charting Hong Kong and moving full steam towards the vision of an international INT center, life technology and artificial intelligence. I announced in my last budget that $10 billion would be earmarked to further promote the development of life and health technology in Hong Kong, and a bid to enhance support for the transformation of R&D outcomes as well as R&D activities related to life and health technology. I will set aside $6 billion out of the above provision to provide subsidies for universities and research institutes to set up thematic research centers. The aims are to foster cross-university, cross-institutional, and multidisciplinary cooperation. We will invite universities and research institutes interested in setting up life and health technology research institutes to submit proposals in 2023 to 24. To further enhance basic research in frontier technology fields such as AI and quantum technology, and to better realize our basic technology research capabilities in making breakthroughs out of the blue, I will earmark $3 billion to promote the development of relevant facilities, in particular to leverage Hong Kong's unique advantage as a platform for international scientific research collaboration and attract leading INT talents, research teams, and enterprises from the mainland and overseas to Hong Kong, thereby promoting cross-sectoral research cooperation. Microelectronics Research and Development Institute. Microelectronics is a core technology in high-tech and information industries. Given the rapid growth of its global demand, microelectronics has infinite room for development, and Hong Kong must seize this opportunity. The government will support the establishment of a Microelectronics Research and Development Institute to promote microelectronics development in Hong Kong, aiming to make it a leading organization for supporting microelectronics development in the Asia-Pacific region. The institute will be tasked with strengthening collaborations with universities, R&D centers, and the industry, and expediting the one-to-end transformation of technological outcomes. This will help pull together mainland and overseas talents in relevant fields and strengthen the nurturing of local R&D talents, thereby further enhancing the INT ecosystem. Nurture startups. The government has been supporting the sustainable development of the INT ecosystem in Hong Kong through the HKSTPC and Cyberport. To step up investment in technology startups, the HKSTPC will inject $400 million into its corporate venture fund to help more technology startups with potential. In addition, the HKSTPC will, through consolidating its existing acceleration program and injecting an additional amount of $110 million, launch the co-acceleration program in collaboration with cooperation partners to support the growth of technology startups with high potential into regional or global enterprises. To tie in with the policy of developing smart city and digital economy, I will earmark $265 million for Cyberport to launch a dedicated incubation program for smart living startups, under which a maximum grant of 500,000 as well as targeted professional support and counseling will be provided. It is anticipated that about 90 eligible startups will benefit from the program in each of the next 5 years. New industrialization. Advanced manufacturing activities generate R&D demand and encourage private enterprises to invest more resources in R&D work, thereby supporting Hong Kong in developing into an international I&T center. The Advanced Manufacturing Center, or AMC, in the Chang Kwan O Inno Park was opened in April 2022, providing advanced manufacturing space of about 110,000 square meters. Tenants which have already moved in include enterprises engaged in the manufacturing of civilian satellites and advanced materials, as well as provision of smart logistics-related services. To tie in with the policy objectives of attracting strategic enterprises to establish a presence in Hong Kong and promoting new industrialization, the government will plan ahead to provide more advanced manufacturing space, including to support the setting up of a second AMC, on which the HKSTPC is currently conducting a feasibility study. International Financial Center. By leveraging its advantages to serve the country's needs, Hong Kong has developed into a globally recognized international financial center. As our country is going full steam ahead to a higher level, opening up and advancing towards high quality development, channeling funds for effective allocation through the capital market, is essential for the development of our country's real economy, which will in turn provide enormous opportunities for Hong Kong. Despite the impact of geopolitical risks, our country's steady economic growth, coupled with its adherence to the development principle of reciprocity and mutual benefits, has prompted a large number of enterprises and investors to zero in on the investment benefits to be brought by our country's long-term development. This has made Hong Kong's advantages to become more prominent. As a leading offshore renminbi hub, Hong Kong will continue to take the lead in RMB fund management and investment in the international market and contribute to the internationalization of RMB. As Hong Kong heads towards high-quality development as an international financial center, it has to attach importance to issues about both development and security. We have been identifying potential risks early and managing them properly, and firmly upholding the bottom line of ensuring financial security, on which our steady economic, financial, and social development depends. Wider mutual access between the mainland and Hong Kong. Relevant institutions in the two places have been collaborating closely to expand the mutual market access schemes with a view to implementing the related measures promptly. In the future, we will continue to explore with the mainland various proposals on expansion of mutual market access and enhancement arrangements, such as enhancing the cross-boundary wealth management Connect scheme in the GBA, the Bond Connect, as well as further expanding the scope of eligible securities under the Stock Connect. We will also contemplate the idea of providing more risk management products for investors outside of the mainland, including to issue mainland government bond futures in Hong Kong, thereby injecting new impetus into Hong Kong's capital market in a sustainable manner. Offshore renminbi business center. As our country is the world's biggest trading nation, the usage and volume of cross-boundary and offshore renminbi will continue to increase. As stated in the report to the 20th National Congress of the Communist Party of China, our country will promote the internationalization of RMB in an orderly way. Hong Kong has always been the world's largest offshore renminbi hub, with deposits of nearly renminbi 1 trillion in total as at the end of 2022. Approximately 75% of offshore renminbi settlements across the globe are conducted in Hong Kong. Experience from the Shanghai Hong Kong Stock Connect and the Shenzhen Hong Kong Stock Connect, as well as the Bond Connect, fully shows it where risks are controllable. Hong Kong can assist the mainland in opening up the financial market in an orderly manner and attracting offshore capital for investment in offshore renminbi assets. Under the mutual access channels, renminbi counter is being explored under the Stock Connect, while Hong Kong dollars and renminbi settlement is also offered in the international carbon market launched by the Hong Kong Exchange. In January this year, the Legislative Council, or LegCo, passed a bill to exempt the stamp duty payable for certain transactions by dual counter market makers, DCMMs, to boost the issuance and trading of renminbi securities in Hong Kong. The Hong Kong Exchange will introduce a DCMM regime in the first half of this year to promote the liquidity of renminbi denominated stocks and price efficiency, as well as to tie in with the setting up of RMB trading counters by issuers. Securities market. After consulting the market, the Hong Kong Exchange will introduce a listing regime for advanced technology companies in the first quarter of this year to expand the listing channel for issuers. The Hong Kong Exchange will also put forward specific reform recommendations on GEM within this year, after carefully considering the views of various market players on the financing needs of SMEs and startups and consult stakeholders. Besides, the Hong Kong Exchange will explore ways to further enhance the listing rules with the Securities and Futures Commission, or SFC, in order to strike a balance between market development and regulatory needs, including relevant arrangement concerning share buybacks by issuers. If the above recommendation is supported by the market, we will make necessary amendments to the company's ordinance. The Hong Kong Exchange will also study a series of proposals on the optimization of the trading mechanism, which include exploring arrangements for maintaining operation of the market under inclement weathers and reviewing the self-trade prevention function as well as the relevant restrictions, so as to facilitate transaction of investors and dovetail with the market trend. Bond market. As a leading bond hub in Asia, Hong Kong has been the largest center for arranging international bond issuance in the region for 6 consecutive years. The government will continue to upgrade our infrastructure and implement support measures, as well as work with regulators to promote the strengths of our capital market to issuers and investors in the mainland and abroad. Hong Kong is also an offshore renminbi bond issuance center. Last year, the People's Government of Hainan Province and the Shenzhen Municipal People's Government each issued offshore renminbi bonds worth renminbi 5 billion in Hong Kong respectively. In January this year, we issued offshore renminbi bonds again under the government Green Bond Program (GGBP), and in response to investors' demand, doubled the RMB tranches in size to renminbi 10 billion. The issuance was well received by mainland and overseas financial institutions. We will continue to encourage more mainland local governments at different levels, as well as mainland and overseas public and private institutions, to issue offshore renminbi bonds in Hong Kong. In addition, we just issued the inaugural one-year tokenized green bond last week, making use of tokenization technology in the process of bond issuance, including coupon payment, secondary trading, and maturity redemption, etc. Institutional investors were the targets of this pilot issuance, which explores the compatibility of Hong Kong's existing legal framework and financial infrastructure with tokenized issuance. We will consolidate the experience gained, review the development potential and prospects of tokenized bond issuance in Hong Kong, and consider policy initiatives to promote the wider use of tokenization technology in our capital market. Asset and Wealth Management Center. The asset and wealth management industry is an essential part of Hong Kong's financial industry, as well as an important component contributing to our status as an international financial center under the 14th Five-Year Plan. In 2021, the assets under management in Hong Kong amounted to over $35 trillion, with a total of 54,000 practitioners in the sector. We will actively take forward a series of measures to further strengthen Hong Kong's status as the asset and wealth management hub in Asia. Regarding family office business, we introduced legislative amendments into LegCo last December to provide profits tax exemption for qualifying transactions of family-owned investment holding vehicles managed by single-family offices in Hong Kong. Upon LegCo's passage of the proposal, the tax concession arrangements will be applicable to any years of assessment on or after the 1st of April 2022. Furthermore, we will allocate $100 million to invest Hong Kong over the next 3 years for attracting more family offices to Hong Kong. The Financial Services and the Treasury Bureau has set up a steering group to oversee key projects, including the Wealth for Good in Hong Kong Summit in end March, as well as providing dedicated training for relevant wealth management talents. Over the years, we have been striving to enhance the ecosystem of our asset management industry. We have also provided targeted, tangible support to local asset managers. For example, in recent years, the Exchange Fund has established alternative asset portfolios with dedicated allocation to smaller local managers. As a next step, such portfolios will also cover private equity funds managed by smaller local managers and those seeking to expand their Hong Kong operations in order to support their continued growth here. In addition, the Exchange Fund will identify and increase allocation to funds that focus on sustainable investment to help consolidate Hong Kong's position as the region's leading sustainable finance platform. Meanwhile, we will work with regulators to refine the regulatory measures and tax arrangements for the asset and wealth management sector. On wealth management, regulators will, on a risk-based principle and subject to appropriate protection for investors, streamline the suitability assessment and disclosure process for sophisticated or ultra-high net worth individual clients. Moreover, the government will review the existing tax concession measures applicable to funds in carried interest. Financial technology development. We will continue to take forward the application testing and preparatory work for various financial technology (fintech) infrastructure projects, including Hong Kong dollars and eCNY as cross-boundary payment facilities. In addition, the HKMA is currently working with the Bank of Thailand to explore the use of Hong Kong's faster payments system and Thailand's prompt pay by visitors from the two places for local payment, providing them with another safe, fast, and effective payment option. The Commercial Data Interchange, or CDI, was launched in October 2022, with over 1,000 loans totaling more than $1.9 billion having been granted to SMEs by participating banks as at end of 2022. It is expected that the CDI will be linked to the Consented Data Exchange Gateway developed by the Office of the Government Chief Information Officer at the end of this year, thus allowing financial institutions to obtain relevant data after receipt of their client's authorization, thereby enhancing the efficiency of providing financial services. Non-traditional risk transfer instruments. Hong Kong is a global risk management center, and some mainland enterprises have established captive insurers to leverage on the professional managers and services in Hong Kong for enhancing their integrated corporate risk management capabilities. In recent years, we implemented a dedicated regulatory regime for insurance linked securities, or ILS, and launched the pilot ILS grant scheme, facilitating the issuance of several catastrophe bonds in Hong Kong and promoting diversified development of the insurance market. I propose a 2-year extension of the pilot ILS grant scheme to continue attracting more issuing institutions and nurturing talent, with a view to supporting industry development and assisting our country in expansion of channels for risk diversification and management. Financial inclusiveness. The government will continue to adopt a multi-pronged approach in developing the retail bond market. I plan to issue no less than $50 billion of silver bond and $15 billion of retail green bonds in the next financial year, so as to facilitate market development and at the same time offer members of the public investment options with steady returns. At present, there are over 4 million MPF scheme members. Society at large has clear aspirations for MPF funds that offer stable returns at low fees. I have instructed the HKMA and the Mandatory Provident Fund Schemes Authority to conduct a study on this. To start off, I plan to earmark a certain proportion of the future issuances of government green bonds and infrastructure bonds for priority investment by MPF funds, thereby providing MPF scheme members an additional investment option. International Aviation Hub. Hong Kong's positioning as an international aviation hub is affirmed and supported by the Central People's Government in the 14th Five-Year Plan and the Outline Development Plan for the GBA. The Hong Kong International Airport, or HKIA, which served about 70 million passengers in 2018 to 19, was the third busiest airport in terms of international passenger throughput around the globe. It was also the world's busiest cargo airport for many years. To support the recovery of air traffic, the Airport Authority Hong Kong, or AA, is rolling out a series of measures, which include reducing or waiving airport charges, providing incentives to resume suspended flight services or launch new routes, organizing large-scale promotion activities, etc. Meanwhile, the government and the AA are examining the medium to long-term manpower shortage situation in the aviation industry with a view to identifying solutions to the problem. Airport City. To enhance Hong Kong's status as an international aviation hub, the government and the AA are pressing ahead with the Airport City Development Strategy, under which the HKIA will be developed into a node of various economic activities with aviation as its core business. With the addition of new developments and new functions, the HKIA will drive the economic growth of Hong Kong as well as its neighboring regions. A number of infrastructure projects of the HKIA will be successively completed and commissioned, including the Sky Pier Terminal, which will commence operation in the middle of this year, and the entire three-runway system, which is expected to be completed by the end of 2024. The HKIA will have its capacity substantially increased and its position as a regional multimodal transportation hub further enhanced. The above developments will significantly boost passenger and cargo traffic of the HKIA, creating tremendous opportunities for activities such as aircraft repair and maintenance, aircraft parts manufacturing, and relevant R&D. The AA is planning to construct a new aviation business park on the airport island and is exploring with Zhuhai authorities on the feasibility of building an aviation industrial park in Zhuhai so as to promote the development of the aviation industry in the two places through synergized cross-boundary cooperation. Under the development strategy of the airport city, the HKIA is also actively taking forward the integrated commercial development project of Sky City. Moreover, logistics infrastructure will be strengthened to further expand the business of high-value goods and e-commerce. With its advantages in terms of geography, infrastructure, and transportation, the site will be developed into a vibrant hub of commerce, conventions and exhibitions, tourism, lifestyle, and logistics. Enhance the aircraft leasing preferential tax regime. The government will enhance the aircraft leasing preferential tax regime, striving to establish Hong Kong as an aircraft leasing and services hub. The government has conducted a trade consultation on the proposed enhancement measures, which include allowing tax deduction for the acquisition cost of aircraft and expanding the scope of leases and aircraft leasing activities. This has been welcomed by the trade. These enhancement measures will further attract more aircraft leasing companies to establish a presence in Hong Kong. We will introduce a bill into the legislature in the fourth quarter of this year. International Maritime Center. Currently, over 80% of the world's merchandise goods still rely on sea transportation. With Hong Kong's position as a prominent international maritime center, we have been committed to raising the industry's competitiveness. These measures include attracting more maritime enterprises to establish a presence in Hong Kong through tax concessions, promoting the development of smart port, for instance, by setting up a digitalized port community system with a view to further enhancing the efficiency of Hong Kong's port and reducing its operation costs. Promote the international high-end maritime service industry. In order to further promote the development of Hong Kong as an international maritime center, the Transport and Logistics Bureau will set up a task force with the aim of putting forward, in collaboration with the Hong Kong Maritime and Port Board and representatives of the high-end maritime services industry, an action plan on the following strategies by the end of this year. These strategies include, first, enhancing business sectors such as ship finance, maritime insurance, maritime arbitration, and ship management, thereby enabling Hong Kong to become a global leading high-end maritime service market. Second, facilitating transformation of global maritime and port business toward zero emission. Third, promoting the development of smart initiatives and digitalization in the maritime industry. And fourth, promoting exchanges and collaborations among maritime industries in the GBA and those around the world. I will earmark $20 million to expedite studies on strategies for promoting the high-end maritime service industry and enhance exchanges among industries in the international arena and the GBA. The scale of the annual flagship event, Hong Kong Maritime Week, will also be expanded. International Trade Center. The National 14th Five-Year Plan supports Hong Kong in enhancing its status as an international trade center. It also supports Hong Kong's participation in and contribution to our country's comprehensive opening up and development of a modern economic system. The report to the 20th National Congress has set out that our country will leverage the strength of an enormous market to attract global resources and production factors with a strong domestic economy and amplify the interplay between domestic and international markets and resources, thereby improving the quality and level of trade and investment cooperation. Under our country's new development pattern, We will strengthen our role as a connecting platform for international circulation between our country and the rest of the world. We will also capitalize on the dual engines of the Belt and Road Initiative and the GBA development to facilitate commercial exchanges between the GBA and the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN, enhance the strategic positioning of both our country and Hong Kong in global and regional economy and trade, and promote our participation in regional economic integration. All this will place us in a better position to cope with the impact of unilateralism and protectionism, opening up the mainland domestic market. We will fully leverage our unique advantages under one country, two systems, i.e., enjoying strong support of the motherland while also being closely connected to the rest of the world in order to consolidate our leading position in global trade, to further integrate into the overall development of our country in order to create strong impetus for our growth. We need to open up the mainland domestic market internally and also expand our international economic and trade networks externally. In doing so, we can play our role as a participant in domestic circulation and a facilitator in international circulation. In support of the Belt and Road Initiative, we will explore and tap emerging markets such as ASEAN, the Middle East, Central Asia, and Africa while maintaining ties with the European and American markets. Strengthen overseas economic and trade connections. On expanding our global economic and trade networks, we have been seeking to enter into free trade agreements, FTAs, and investment agreements, IAs, with more economies. The FTAs and IAs signed by Hong Kong so far have covered most of our major trading partners. We will continue to actively take forward the relevant work with emerging economies as priority targets to inject new impetus into Hong Kong's trade development. Moreover, we are actively seeking to join the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, RCEP, in order to further help Hong Kong build a more comprehensive supply chain and attract more Hong Kong enterprises to invest in the member economies of RCEP with a view to boosting the trade investment and relevant development in the region, thereby enhancing Hong Kong's status as a regional trade center. Opening up target emerging markets. To further assist Hong Kong enterprises and investors in opening up markets, the government will provide additional funding of $550 million in total to the HKTDC in the 5 financial years starting from 2023 to 24. The additional funding aims to help Hong Kong enterprises seize opportunities arising from the Belt and Road Initiative and the GBA development and tapping into emerging markets, as well as stepping up our global promotional efforts. The dedicated fund on branding, upgrading, and domestic sales, BUD Fund, has assisted enterprises in exploring markets outside Hong Kong and benefited more than 3,900 enterprises over the years. I propose to further inject $500 million into the fund and at the same time launching BUD Easy to expedite the processing of applications, enabling more SMEs to make use of the funding to develop their business. In addition, the Hong Kong Productivity Council has been proactively assisting SMEs in applying for government subsidies, which is well received by the industry. I propose to allocate $100 million to enhance this service in the next 5 years.
Center for International Legal and Dispute Resolution Services in the Asia-Pacific region. We will continue to strive to consolidate the strategic positioning of Hong Kong as a center for international legal and dispute resolution services in the Asia-Pacific region under the National 14th Five-Year Plan. We will enhance the competitiveness of our legal infrastructure, deepen the mutual legal assistance mechanisms on civil and commercial matters between Hong Kong and the mainland, and also promote the strengths and opportunities for Hong Kong's legal and dispute resolution services on all fronts. The AALCO, or Asian African Legal Consultative Organization Hong Kong Regional Arbitration Center, was established in Hong Kong in May last year. With the support of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the International Organization for Mediation Preparatory Office was officially opened in Hong Kong in the middle of this month to foster integration of legal practices in the GBA. The Department of Justice, or DOJ, has set up a task force comprising experts and academics to study various measures for facilitating exchanges among the people and businesses in the area. The DOJ will seek to establish and promote the use of a common online mediation platform for dispute resolution in the GBA, with a view to providing a more convenient, efficient, and cost-effective means for people and businesses in the GBA to settle cross-boundary disputes online. Regional Intellectual Property Trading Center. The National 14th Five-Year Plan supports Hong Kong to develop into a regional intellectual property or IP trading center. According to the Global Innovation Index 2022 published by the World Intellectual Property Organization, the Shenzhen Hong Kong Guangzhou cluster was ranked second among the world's top performing science and technology clusters for 3 consecutive years, highlighting the vibrancy of innovative activities in the GBA. The government will continue to allocate resources to further develop and promote the original grant patent system to tie in with Hong Kong's INT development. An additional funding totaling $10 million will be allocated to the Intellectual Property Department in the next 2 years for employing and nurturing its patent examiners, as well as progressively developing a talent pool with a view to acquiring institutional autonomy in conducting substantive patent examination by 2030. The government will also continue to enhance the IP regime to strengthen copyright protection in the digital environment. The Copyright Amendment Ordinance 2022 will come into operation on the 1st of May this year, following which we will embark on a new round of review as soon as possible as part of our ongoing efforts to enhance the competitiveness of our copyright regime. We also plan to table the relevant subsidiary legislation for implementing the protocol relating to the Madrid Agreement concerning the international registration of marks in the legislature in the first half of this year, with a view to putting in place the international trademark registration system under the protocol as early as possible. This will enable trademark owners to register and manage their trademarks in multiple jurisdictions under one single application. Patent box tax incentive. INT is a key engine for driving the development of a key knowledge-based economy. Legal protection of R&D outcomes in the INT field can be acquired through patent registration, which facilitates IP trading activities such as buying, selling, and licensing, and the development of new products and services, as well as unleashes the underlying economic value of the concerned intangible assets to encourage the INT sector to forge ahead with more R&D activities and create more patented inventions with market potential. We will introduce a patent box tax incentive to provide tax concessions for profits sourced in Hong Kong from qualifying patents generated through R&D activities. We will consult the trade on the patent box tax arrangement within this year and formulate a competitive concessionary tax rate applicable to Hong Kong. Our target is to submit the legislative amendment to the legislature in the first half of 2024. East meets West Center for International Cultural Exchange. Hong Kong's positioning as an East meets West Center for International Cultural Exchange has, for the first time, been included in national planning. This gives full recognition of Hong Kong's distinctive advantages as a cultural melting pot of East and West, including the world-class cultural resources in the West Kowloon Cultural District, our position as one of the 3 largest art markets in the world, and a vast pool of outstanding talents from around the globe. The government will continue to dedicate its efforts to promote our cultural development, including mapping out a blueprint for arts and culture and creative industries development, nurturing a diverse talent pool, enriching arts, cultural, and creative content, as well as upgrading cultural infrastructure with a view to further enhancing the ecosystem for the relevant industries, arts and culture. To further promote the exchange of culture and arts in the GBA, Hong Kong will serve as the host city for the GBA Culture and Arts Festival in 2024, offering high-quality cultural and performing arts programs from the area. I will allocate $20 million for hosting the festival. It is expected that 5,000 Hong Kong and mainland artists, as well as other practitioners in the arts and cultural sector, will participate in the festival, attracting an anticipated audience of over 140,000 people. I also propose to provide a total of $135 million over 5 years, starting from the next financial year, to support performing arts groups and artists in Hong Kong in taking part in performances and productions in the GBA. It is anticipated that each year, 1,000 Hong Kong artists will participate in these activities with an audience of 40,000 from the GBA. Creative industries. The government launched the Create Smart Initiative, or CSI, in 2009. As at the end of September 2022, nearly $2.3 billion had been allocated under the CSI to sponsor the creative sectors in organizing about 650 projects in Hong Kong. the mainland and overseas, benefiting around 13,000 SMEs with the creation of nearly 30,000 jobs and over 80,000 nurturing opportunities. I will inject an additional $500 million into the CSI to support the development of our creative industries, encourage more cross-sectoral and cross-genre collaboration on creative and cultural programs, and promote the co-production of television variety programs by local television stations with mainland or Asian production teams to enhance the influence of Hong Kong's pop culture. The CSI will also provide funding support for the Hong Kong Design Center and HKTDC to implement flagship events and incubation programs. Development of the agriculture and fisheries industry. The government has attached importance to the local agriculture and fisheries industry and is committed to promoting its modernization and sustainable development. We support the sector in the application of advanced technology and the intensification of production, as well as helping it seize the opportunities arising from GBA development. In my last budget, I proposed to make two separate injections of $500 million into the Sustainable Fisheries Development Fund and the Sustainable Agricultural Development Fund. Upon approval of this funding proposal by the Finance Committee of the LegCo in December last year, the Environment and Ecology Bureau, or EEB, has proposed a number of enhancements to suitably expand the coverage of the funds and further streamline the application procedures, taking into account the views of the industry. The Agriculture, Fisheries and Conservation Department, or AFCD, has also set up a task force to strengthen the support for interested applicants. Phase 1 of the agricultural park in Kutong, set up with $830 million of government funding, has commenced operation in phases since late 2022. The industry has been conducting a consultancy study on the building design guidelines for multi-story livestock farms with financial support of the government. On fisheries, the AFCD plans to designate 4 new fish culture zones this year to provide an additional development area of about 600 hectares. Besides, several new deep-sea cages with modern mariculture equipment will be provided in phases for renting to fisheries associations to lower their startup costs. Fishermen Association may also apply to the Sustainable Fisheries Development Fund for setting up and operating new deep-sea cages to facilitate sustainable development in terms of intensification of production. To promote the upgrading, transformation, and modernization and sustainable development of the agriculture and fisheries industry, the EEB will work hand in hand with the industry to formulate a blueprint for the sustainable development of agriculture and fisheries. This will help to raise the quality and value of local produce, as well as the productivity of the industry in the long run through an array of measures covering finance, infrastructure, land, and technical support, etc. Building in capacity, talent resources. Talents are the most important resources for growth. Hong Kong's future depends on the continuous and abundant supply of quality talents to meet market demands. While launching initiatives to compete for talents, the government's foremost task is still to proactively nurture and to retain local talent. The government will encourage diversified development through education and training to equip young people and practitioners of different sectors with the skills required for the future development of our industries and economy, and create more opportunities and hope for our local talents, so as to motivate them to keep striving for a better future together in Hong Kong. Financial services. To further nurture fintech talent, the government will launch a fintech internship scheme for post-secondary students, under which subsidies will be provided to participating students in Hong Kong and the GBA. The scheme facilitates eligible students to acquire practical work experience in fintech enterprises in Hong Kong or the wider GBA, and helps them develop an early interest in pursuing a career in fintech after graduation with a view to enlarging the local fintech talent pool. Since its launch in 2016, the pilot program to enhance talent training for the insurance sector and the asset wealth and wealth management sector has been well received. We will extend the program for 3 years to nurture more talent for the industry and enhance the professional competency of practitioners. Maritime, aviation, and logistics industries. Since its launch in 2014, the Maritime and Aviation Training Fund, or MATF, has benefited more than 15,000 students and practitioners and supported industries in their promotional and publicity work. I will inject $200 million into the MATF to support manpower training of the logistics industry, promote the development of high-end, high-value added and smart logistics, and encourage the industry to collaborate with tertiary institutions and professional organizations in attracting more young people to join the industry. In addition, we will launch a maritime services traineeship scheme this year to provide traineeship opportunities for young people who aspire to a career in maritime law with a view to nurturing more homegrown maritime lawyers. In order to attract more young people to join the aviation industry, the first-year training places of the GBA Youth Aviation Industry Internship Program, co-organized by the Hong Kong International Aviation Academy and mainland institutions, will be increased from 300 to 450 to meet the long-term manpower demand of the aviation industry in Hong Kong and the mainland. Innovation and technology, or INT. In recent years, the government has been making dedicated efforts to foster among our youths an interest in INT from an early age, enhance students' digital skills and innovative thinking, improve the atmosphere for their learning of information technology or IT, and expand the future supply of INT talents. Since launching the IT Innovation Lab in secondary schools program and then knowing more about IT program have been well received. I will make an additional funding of $300 million to continue providing subsidies of up to $1 million for each publicly funded secondary school in the next 3 academic years for organization of IT-related extracurricular activities. Construction industry. In order to meet the manpower requirement for future infrastructure development, we will work with tertiary institutions to offer a comprehensive study and career development pathway and launch a 2-year pilot scheme to provide on-the-job training allowance to trainees who have enrolled in part-time construction-related degree programs. It is estimated that the funding of about $100 million will be incurred. The government will also earmark $7 million to partner with Hong Kong Institute of Construction to launch a 2-year first hire then train subsidy scheme to provide on-the-job training allowance to trainees who have chosen to enroll in construction safety officer courses. Northern Metropolis and Kao Yichao Artificial Island. As a new engine for future development of Hong Kong, the Northern Metropolis serves as an important base for promoting the development of INT industries, supporting Hong Kong in establishing a new industry pattern of South-North dual engine, finance, innovation, and technology. It also facilitates high-quality economic cooperation between Hong Kong and the GBA, forging an important platform for Hong Kong to better integrate into the overall development of our country. Furthermore, more land resources will be released to provide more quality living space into the public. In the 2022 policy address, the chief executive proposed to establish a steering committee on the Northern Metropolis and an advisory committee on the Northern Metropolis to strengthen the institutional governance for the development of the area. The latter is to be chaired by me. The advisory committee, with experts and stakeholders in the community, will tender advice and suggestions for taking forward the project. Meanwhile, the government and relevant mainland authorities have set up a task force to strengthen communication and collaboration on matters related to the development of a Northern Metropolis. In addition, the government is making preparations for the establishment of a Northern Metropolis Coordination Office to take forward related work. Apart from pressing ahead with projects already under construction in the Northern Metropolis, such as those in the large-scale new development areas or NDAs in Kutong North, Fanning North, Hung Shui Kiu, Hachun, and Yunlong South, we are, in parallel, taking forward the planning and engineering studies of other development projects. We will start off by commencing consultation in the second quarter on the development proposals and land use planning of Santin Technopole, the flagship INT project in the region covering 150 hectares of new land for INT users. On another front, the first 3 buildings of the Hong Kong Shenzhen Innovation and Technology Park in the Lok Ma Chau Loop will be gradually completed from the end of 2024 onwards, and the site formation works of the first batch of the new land for INT users at Santin Technopole will commence in the same year. The additional space made available will facilitate the recruitment of mainland and overseas INT enterprises to establish a presence in Hong Kong. Providing around 4 million square meters of commercial gross floor area and about 200,000 jobs, the 1,000-hectare Kao Yichao Artificial Island, built by reclamation, can expand the scope and capacity of the development of Hong Kong and support the development of the third central business district. The government has put forward preliminary proposals on the scope of reclamation, land use, transport infrastructure network, and financial arrangements regarding the artificial island and has commenced public engagement activities. Upon finalization of a more detailed planning and design concept, the government will contemplate appropriate financial arrangements for the artificial islands project, examine various financing options and their economic benefits, and explore the optimal package with the community. Land supply. The 2023 to 24 land sale programs will offer a total of 12 residential sites. With this, together with railway property development, private development and redevelopment projects, as well as the Urban Renewal Authorities or URA's projects, the potential land supply for the whole year is expected to have a capacity of providing around 20,550 units, about 60% more than the annual demand of the 12,900 units projected in the long-term housing strategy. The land sale program also includes 3 commercial sites and 3 industrial sites, capable of providing about 200,000 square meters of commercial floor area and 170,000 square meters of industrial floor area, respectively. The government's effort to expedite land creation has yielded remarkable results. We will secure land of a scale nearly doubles that of the previous 5-year period for the production of no less than 72,000 private housing units in the coming 5 years, and make land available to the market through the land sale programs and railway property developments. Among such land, nearly 60% comes from NDAs or near town extensions, and another 40% from other districts under the government land sale programs and railway property development. The above projection has yet to take into account the supply from development projects undertaken by the URA and other private development projects. Housing supply. The government has identified sufficient land for the provision of about 360,000 public housing units, around 20% higher than the supply target in long-term housing strategy, which will be able to meet the demand for about 300,000 public housing units in the next 10 years. However, the supply of housing land is not evenly distributed across each year. The land creation takes time. There is still a shortage of land ready for public housing development in the short run. To fill the short-term gap of public housing supply in a timely manner and to improve the living conditions of people living in inadequate housing, the government has identified 8 sites for the construction of light public housing. On transitional housing, as at the end of 2022, about 7,000 units have been put into service. It is expected that about 14,000 additional units will be coming on stream in the next 2 years. To promote public-private partnership, the pilot scheme on private developer participation in subsidized housing development announced in the 2022 policy address encourages developers to build subsidized sale flats for eligible persons to buy at a specified discount rate from the market price. We are currently formulating the policy framework of the pilot scheme, details of which will be announced later this year. For private housing, it is estimated that the completion of private residential units will average over 19,000 units annually in the 5 years from this year onwards. As at the end of 2022, the potential supply of first-hand private residential units for the next 3 to 4 years is expected to remain at a relatively high level of about 105,000 units. Stamp duty. The current demand-side management measures for residential properties, commonly known as harsh measures, will remain unchanged. Last year, more than 90% of buyers of residential properties were first-time buyers. Having considered that no adjustments have been made to the value band of the ad valorem stamp duty payable for the sale and purchase or transfer of residential and non-residential properties rated Scale 2 since 2010, I have decided to make adjustments in this regard with a view to easing the burden on ordinary families of purchasing their first residential properties, particularly small and medium residential units, details of which are set out in the supplement to the budget. Such adjustments shall take immediate effect under a public revenue protection order published in the Gazette today. It is anticipated that this measure will benefit 37,000 buyers and cost the government approximately $1.9 billion per year. I stress that For all the demand-side management measures for residential properties, commonly known as harsh measures, will remain unchanged. Transport infrastructure. The government adopts the infrastructure-led and capacity-creating planning principles in taking forward transport infrastructure projects with a view to unleashing the development potential of areas along transport corridors and meeting transport and logistics demand arising from long-term development in a forward-looking manner, while fostering better connectivity with other GBA cities. According to the preliminary recommendations in the strategic studies on railways and major roads beyond 2030, the government plans to build 3 strategic railways and 3 major roads in order to formulate Hong Kong's future major transport infrastructure development blueprint. In the 4th quarter of this year, the government is now consulting the public for their views on the above recommendations concerning the roads and railroads. Application of innovation and technology in the construction industries. Hong Kong people have always been proud of our infrastructure, which is one of the keys to maintaining the city's competitiveness. To further strengthen the advantages of our construction industry, we will promote the extensive application of advanced technologies in the construction industry to improve construction methods and materials. I have earmarked $30 million for the Development Bureau to conduct a study on establishing the Building Testing and Research Institute and to carry out related planning and preliminary design. Apart from R&D activities for innovative materials, construction methods, and technologies, the center will also devise standards, conduct testing, provide accreditation to spearhead innovation in the construction industry, and attract R&D talent to Hong Kong. The center will also capitalize Hong Kong's unique advantages to provide a platform for our country's construction standards and related products to align with those in the international market. I have also earmarked $30 million for conducting a study on the construction of the first advanced construction industry building at a site of about 3 hectares in Qingyi, carrying out planning and preliminary design work, as well as advising its mode of operation. The conceptual idea is to provide space for operators to set up steel reinforcement bar prefabrication yards, processing site for multi-trade integrated mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, and other advanced manufacturing yards in the multi-story building. To implement the new initiatives announced in the 2022 policy address, I have earmarked $15 million for studying and putting in place measures to strengthen the supply chain of the modular integrated construction module. The scope of study will also cover areas such as the manufacturing, transportation, storage, and decoration of MIC modules. We will also explore the provision of manufacturing and storage sites in the Northern Metropolis and ways to enhance collaboration with the GBA and optimize the MIC supply chain. Governing for the people, building a livable city, green city. Hong Kong is making vigorous efforts to achieve carbon neutrality before 2050 and reduce its carbon emission by 50% before 2035 as compared with the level in 2005. To strengthen cooperation and promote deep decarbonization, the EEB has set up the Office of Climate Change and Carbon Neutrality in January this year. A Council for Carbon Neutrality and Sustainable Development will also be formed to advise on decarbonization strategies. Green Tech Fund. In the past few budgets, I allocated resources in support of efforts to address climate change. Last year, I injected an additional funding of $200 million into the GTF, doubling the provision of $400 million. The GTF received overwhelming responses from applicants, and 22 projects from local universities, designated public research institutes, and private enterprises have been approved. These research projects involve technologies for the cell storage and generation of hydrogen fuel, manufacturing of biochar enhanced construction materials, and air cleaning system for reducing roadside air pollution. New energy transport. The government has set a target of introducing about 700 electric buses and 3,000 electric taxis by the end of 2027. We will earmark $200 million under the New Energy Transport Fund for progressively commencing trials of hydrogen fuel cell electric double-deck buses and heavy vehicles within this year, in collaboration with franchised bus companies and other stakeholders to fully assess their operational feasibility under local circumstances. We have also set aside $350 million to provide subsidies for in-harbor ferry operators for the construction and trials of electric ferries and the related charging facilities, with a view to testing the technical and commercial viability of using electric ferries in Hong Kong. The trials are expected to commence in 2024. Moreover, the government will put in place a loan scheme with a 100% guarantee for the taxi trade as an incentive for taxi owners to replace their existing taxis with battery electric taxis. It is estimated that the proposed measure will involve a loan guarantee of about $6.4 billion. The details of the scheme will be announced in due course. Food waste reduction. Food waste accounts for 30% of municipal solid waste disposed of at landfills. In 2023 to 24, we will allocate an additional funding of $62 million to gradually expand the scope of food waste collection to cover more public and private premises, including food establishments, markets, hotels, large shopping malls, etc. The food waste collection trial scheme for public rental housing estate will also be extended to cover a total of 100 blocks involving about 150,000 residents. Through these measures, we can not only reduce the volume of odorous food waste disposed of at landfills, but also deliver the food waste to the Organic Resources Recovery Center for conversion into renewable energy. Countryside conservation. In the next 2 to 3 years, the AFCD will gradually enhance facilities in country parks and explore ideas such as providing treetop adventure, repairing wartime relics, and turning them into open museums. As at the end of 2022, 33 projects involving a total grant of $165 million have been approved under the Countryside Conservation Funding Scheme to support non-profit-making organizations in carrying out countryside conservation and revitalization projects at different levels, ranging from natural environment or ecological habitat, non-graded built heritage to cultural and historic assets. Healthcare. The government has been devoting a lot of resources on healthcare, of which the 2023 to 24 estimate reaches $104.4 billion, accounting for about 19% of the government recurrent expenditure. We will continue to enhance public healthcare services. The HA will strengthen a series of services, such as enhancing clinical services for diseases including cancer, increasing public hospital beds, operating theater sessions, etc. Besides, the HA is continuing its rollout of measures to reduce the waiting time for specialist outpatient services, which include streamlining referral arrangements for cross-specialty cases, setting up integrated clinics to provide multidisciplinary support, etc. The HA will also introduce a new service for drug collection and delivery by phases and further promote teleconsultation services. Primary healthcare is an integral part of the entire healthcare system, accounting for about 20% of the expenditure on public healthcare. To balance healthcare resources and the overconcentration of pressure in public hospitals, the government put forward a primary healthcare blueprint at the end of last year, under which a series of key reform initiatives for enhancing Hong Kong's primary healthcare services are set out, and prevention-oriented, community-based, family-centric, and early detection and intervention strategies are adopted. The vision of the blueprint is to improve the overall health of the general public by providing coherent and comprehensive healthcare services and establishing a sustainable healthcare system. As introduced in the blueprint, the government will launch the chronic disease co-care pilot scheme and enhancement measures to the elderly health care voucher scheme. The government will announce the details in the third quarter of this year. I will set aside sufficient financial resources for the schemes. Development of Chinese medicine. Since the official launch of the Chinese Medicine Development Fund in 2019, more than 10 funding schemes have been rolled out to benefit various practitioners and organizations in the Chinese medicine sector. The fund supports holistic development of Chinese medicine in Hong Kong on all fronts, with its funding scope covering talent nurturing, facility and quality enhancement, registration of proprietary Chinese medicines, as well as promotion and research of Chinese medicine. The fund has also played a crucial role amidst the epidemic in supporting the community Chinese medicine practitioners to provide telemedicine consultation and rehabilitation treatment for discharged patients and recovered persons. I plan to inject an additional amount of $500 million into the fund starting from this financial year to support the commissioning of large-scale training, research, and publicity projects on strategic themes and to take forward more capacity building programs for the sector, which include making preparations for Hong Kong's first Chinese medicine hospital, which is expected to commence services in 2025, and strengthening the role of Chinese medicine in the primary healthcare system. Tobacco control policies. Smoking is hazardous to health. Increasing tobacco duty is recognized internationally as the most effective means to reduce tobacco use. It has been over 10 years since the last substantial increase in tobacco duty, and its policy effect has been diluted gradually by inflation and various other factors. At present, tobacco duty accounts for about 62% of the retail price of cigarettes in Hong Kong, far lower than the rate of 75% recommended by the World Health Organization. To safeguard public health, I propose to increase the duty on cigarettes by 60 cents per stick with immediate effect. Duties on other tobacco products will also be increased by the same proportion. A rise in cigarette price will increase the incentive of smokers to reduce or quit smoking. Our target is to bring the smoking prevalence rate down from the current 9.5% to 7.8%. With this target in mind, we will continue to review the overall effectiveness of tobacco control measures and in parallel step up efforts to promote smoking cessation as well as law enforcement against illicit cigarettes. Youth development. Young people are the future of Hong Kong. The government attaches importance to youth development and strives to let the younger generation see opportunities for upward mobility. The government released at the end of last year the Youth Development Blueprint, which outlines the overall vision and the guiding principles for its future youth development work. A range of concrete actions and measures on youth development are put forward with a view to supporting young people in preparing for the future, fulfilling dreams, achieving whole person development, and contributing to society. The government will progressively implement these measures. Promote urban sports. In recent years, both the Olympic Games and the Youth Olympic Games have introduced a range of urban sports that are popular among the youth. The government will promote urban sports in collaboration with the sports community, schools, and other sectors. The Culture, Sports, and Tourism Bureau is examining the conversion of some underutilized floors of the Kwun Chung Municipal Services buildings into an urban sports center so as to provide a suitable venue for activities such as sport climbing and skateboarding. Vocational and Professional Education and Training, or VPET, has always been providing diversified and flexible education pathways for young people with different aspirations and abilities. Starting from the 2023 to 24 academic year, the Vocational Training Council will launch a 2-year pilot project enabling secondary school students to have an early exposure to VPET and helping them explore their interests. The government will launch the Diploma of Applied Education program on a regular basis in the same academic year in place of the existing Diploma Yijin program and will continue to review the implementation of the pilot project on the development of applied degree programs and proactively explore the launch of more programs so as to further enhance the VPET progression pathway at the post-secondary education level.
婦女發展
Caring and inclusion, women development. Women's contribution to family and social and economic development is enormous. The provision of more opportunities to help women achieve a sense of self-fulfillment and bring their potential to the fullest is essential to the development of our society. I will set aside $100 million to strengthen support for women's development and the related tasks, which include helping women take up different roles in the job market, providing them with training on child and elderly care, promoting work and family life balance as well as mental health, and organizing sharing and learning activities. Enhance support for preschool children with special needs. The government has been committed to providing appropriate support for preschool children with special needs. Currently, about 80 kindergartens and kindergarten-cum childcare centers provide on-site training. Through a pilot project for children awaiting assessment of their physical and intellectual abilities or assessed to have borderline developmental problems, as well as support for their parents and teachers, i.e., Tier 1 support services. Since the launch of the pilot project nearly 3 years ago, over 70% of the children who have received Tier 1 support services have smoothly bridged over to mainstream primary schools for education. This shows that early intervention in their prime learning period not only contributes significantly to their rehabilitation and growth, but also benefits their families. In view of this, I will step up efforts to support these preschool children by allocating additional resources to regularize Tier 1 support services and extend them to cover nearly 900 pre-primary institutions. Such services will also be integrated with on-site preschool rehabilitation services, which support preschool children with mild disabilities, to offer comprehensive and timely assistance to preschool children with different levels of special needs through interdisciplinary service teams under a school-based and integrated approach. The above measures will incur an annual recurrent expenditure of about $174 million. Support aging in place. The government provides the elderly with various types of care and support services at the community level to help them age in place. In addition to the provision of services such as personal care, nursing care, and rehabilitation exercises at daycare centers and homes of the elderly, we will regularize the pilot scheme on the community care service voucher for the elderly in the third quarter of this year and increase the number of beneficiaries from the current 8,000 to 12,000 in 2025 to 26, involving an annual recurrent expenditure of about $900 million. The government will also set up 16 new neighborhood elderly centers in the next 5 years and expand the service scope of a total of over 200 district elderly community centers and neighborhood elderly centers in the fourth quarter of this year to cover retirement planning and promotion of drone technology. The government is also concerned about the post-treatment care and rehabilitation needs of elderly persons. The Hospital Authority's Integrated Discharge Support Program for elderly patients offers 6 to 8 weeks of support services for discharged elderly patients with a higher risk, which include rehabilitation exercises, meal services, environmental risk assessments, and recommendations on home modifications in order to facilitate their recovery at home and reduce their readmission risk. The government will expand the program starting from the third quarter of this year by increasing the number of beneficiaries from about 33,000 to 45,000 per annum, and the number of beneficiaries who can be referred to receive home support services will increase from about 9,000 to 11,000. This measure will involve an annual recurrent expenditure of about $74 million. Enhanced support for carers. Carers devote much time and energy to support elderly persons and persons with disabilities so that they can continue to live in a familiar community. They deserve credit for building a caring and inclusive society. In recognition of their sacrifices and contributions, the government will step up its efforts to cater for carers' various needs. On financial support, the government will regularize 2 financial assistance schemes for carers from low-income families and raise the amount of monthly allowance starting from October this year, involving an annual expenditure of about $430 million. The government will also set up a dedicated carer support hotline in the third quarter of this year, with professional social workers rendering emergency support, emotional counseling, and outreaching services. encourage further employment of elderly employees. With an aging population and a declining birth rate, Hong Kong's workforce is expected to shrink. At present, there are about 1.5 million elderly persons aged 65 or above. Many of them are still capable of working beyond traditional retirement age and are willing to stay in employment. I propose to increase the tax deduction for the mandatory Provident Fund (MPF) voluntary contributions made by employers for their employees aged 65 or above, from the current 100% to 200% in respect of such expenditure. This will encourage employers to continue to hire mature employees while helping the silver-haired increase their retirement savings. Encourage provision of more quality private residential care homes for the elderly and persons with disabilities. As proposed in a 2022 policy address, more incentives should be provided to developers for the construction and operation of residential care homes for the elderly, RCHEs, in private development projects. Upon review, we have decided to, in addition to continue to exempt the gross floor area, GFA, of these private RCHEs from payment of premium, raise the GFA of RCHEs that can be exempted in each development project. Furthermore, we propose to exempt such GFA from the calculation of the maximum GFA of the relevant projects. It is hoped that these enhanced measures will increase the supply of quality private RCHEs. We will launch the enhanced measures in the second quarter of this year, and we will conduct a review after a 3-year trial period. In addition, the Development Bureau and Labor and Welfare Bureau will formulate a similar scheme for residential care homes for persons with disabilities, RCHDs, so as to encourage the market to provide more quality private RCHDs. Encourage installation of separate water meters for subdivided units. To encourage landlords' participation in the scheme for installation of separate water meters for subdivided units launched by the Water Supplies Department, payment of the water fee deposit and charge for providing a meter for each separate water meter installed under the scheme will be waived. Every such water meter account will have a separate water bill for paying water charge, and the first 12 cubic meters of water consumed for each 4-month period will be free of charge. Revised estimates for 2022 to 23. Last year, Hong Kong's economy was plagued by the epidemic. Meanwhile, the sharp tightening of monetary policies by central banks across the globe has significantly weakened the external economic momentum, with adverse impact on local economy. Government revenue has fallen short of expectation, and the revenue from profits tax in this financial year will be lower than the initial estimate. The sluggish stock and property markets have led to lower than expected revenue from stamp duty. The weak property market also has a bearing on revenue from land premium, with a massive expenditure incurred by the 2022 Employment Support Scheme launched after the announcement of the last budget and the anti-epidemic measures taken last year. The financial position of this financial year was worse than expected, although we have reduced the expenditure on anti-epidemic measures in a timely manner, having regard to this subsiding epidemic situation during the year. It is estimated that a deficit of about 140 billion will be recorded, higher than the original estimate of about $56 billion. Our fiscal reserves will fall to about $820 billion. The 2022 to 23 revised estimate on government revenue is $603.8 billion, lower than the original estimate by 15.7% or $112.1 billion. This is mainly because revenues from land premium and stamp duty are lower than their previous estimates. Revenue from land premium is $71.1 billion, substantially lower than the original estimate by $48.9 billion, mainly due to the lower than expected transaction prices of some land lots and the cancellation of some land sales. Revenue from stamp duty of $67 billion is lower than the original estimate by $46 billion, and is also far lower than the previous year. This is mainly because of the sluggish property and stock markets and the decreased volume of transactions. Revenue from profits tax is $162 billion, which is lower than the original estimate by $5.7 billion, mainly due to an increase in the amount of holding over of professional tax given the difficult economic environment last year. Revenue from salaries taxes is $75.7 billion, which is $2.8 billion higher than the original estimate. This is mainly because of an increase in paid level. Due to the huge expenditure involved in the implementation of massive counter-cyclical measures and anti-epidemic work, the revised estimate of total government expenditure for 2022 to 23 at $809.6 billion increased significantly by 16.8% compared to the previous year. Its ratio to nominal GDP is projected to rise to 28.6%, 0.3% or $2.3 billion higher than the original estimate. All in all, I forecast a consolidated deficit of $139.8 billion for 2022 to 23. Fiscal reserves are expected to be $817.3 billion by the 31st of March 2023. The civil service establishment maintained zero growth in this financial year. Departments have enhanced effectiveness and efficiency through reprioritization, internal redeployment, and streamlining of work processes, so that various new policies and initiatives of the government can be taken forward with the civil service establishment maintaining at the present level. Estimates for 2023 to 24. Despite enduring the epidemic for over 3 years, our society remains fairly stable and our public finances are robust. However, we have seen 2 years of heavy fiscal deficits. While the external environment is still rife with challenges, we will continue to adhere to the principles of exercising fiscal prudence, keeping expenditure within the limits of revenue, committing resources as and when justified and needed, strictly containing the growth of government expenditure, and exploring various ways to increase revenue. In addition, we will consider utilizing appropriate financial instruments, such as issuance of bonds to better manage cash flow, and launch several major infrastructure and works projects as scheduled to benefit the public as early as possible. Expenditure. The major policy initiatives announced in the 2022 policy address involve operating expenditure of about $27.8 billion and capital expenditure of $29.1 billion. I will ensure that adequate resources are provided to fully support the launch of these initiatives. In 2023 to 24, the recurrent expenditure will slightly increase by 3.3% to $560.2 billion. Of this, substantial resources have still been allocated to livelihood-related policy areas, including healthcare, social welfare, and education, involving a total amount of $329.4 billion, representing 59% of the recurring expenditure. Non-recurring expenditure will substantially decrease by 53% to $69.3 billion. Total government expenditure for 2023 to 24 will decrease by 6% to $761 billion, with its ratio to nominal GDP projected to drop to 25%. We will continue to strictly control the growth of the civil service establishment. The government's target of zero growth in the civil service establishment will remain unchanged in 2023 to 24. It is expected that as at end March 2024, the civil service establishment will remain at about 197,000 posts. Revenue. In the face of pressure on public finances, we have to reduce expenditure and, more importantly, increase government revenue. The key direction for increasing government revenue is growing the pie with a view to driving up revenue through economic growth. Enterprises and individuals faced huge pressure during the economic downturn in the past few years. While we are steadily returning to normalcy, it will take some time for us to recuperate and consolidate our foundation. Therefore, we should strive to minimize the scope of impact brought by any upward adjustment of taxes as far as possible. Profits tax and salaries tax are major sources of revenue. In previous budgets, it was mentioned that revisions to these tax rates would be put on hold having regard to the epidemic and prevailing economic situation. Our community has now entered the post-pandemic stage, with traveling between Hong Kong and the mainland and the rest of the world resuming in recent months, and the atmosphere in society turning optimistic. However, given that external economic conditions are still slackened, volatile, and ever-changing, the momentum of Hong Kong's economic recovery still requires consolidation. Besides, when reviewing whether adjustments or changes should be made to various government taxes, we have to consider whether such adjustments or changes are in line with other government policy objectives and social values, as well as take into account our competition with neighboring regions. Hence, I propose that profits tax and salaries tax rates should remain unchanged this year. This will help Hong Kong maintain our long-standing advantages with regard to our tax regime and will complement with the government's overall policy direction of attracting enterprises and talents. As regards other proposals on the imposition of new taxes, we must first clearly consider the policy objectives of imposing such new taxes and allow thorough discussions in society before weighing the pros and cons of the proposals and making any decision on them. Nevertheless, in the face of fiscal pressure, we must seek ways to increase government revenue in the short term. I propose to impose an annual special football betting duty of $2.4 billion on the Hong Kong Jockey Club HKJC under the betting duty ordinance for 5 years starting from 2023 to 24. While the current betting duty rates remain unchanged. In formulating this arrangement, we have given due consideration to the intense external competition facing by the local betting business. The HKJC has also undertaken that the proposal would not reduce its commitment to local charities. Moreover, in last year's budget, I announced the introduction of a progressive rating system for domestic properties in 2024 to 25. Other than reflecting the affordable users pay principle, the new system will increase government revenue by about $760 million annually. Taking into account the above new sources of revenue, total government revenue for 2023 to 24 is estimated to be $642.4 billion. Of this, earnings and profits tax are estimated to be $263.7 billion, increasing by 6.4% over the revised estimate for 2022 to 23. Having regard to the land sale program and the land supply target of 2023 to 24, revenue from land premium is expected to be $85 billion, increasing by about 20% over the revised estimate for 2022 to 23. Revenue from stamp duty is estimated to be $85 billion, increasing by 27% over the revised estimate for 2022 to 23. Taking into account the proceeds from issuance of government bonds of about $65 billion in 2023 to 24, I forecast a deficit of $54.4 billion for 2023 to 24. Fiscal reserves will also decrease to $762.9 billion, equivalent to 12 months of government expenditure, other taxation issues, new international tax standards. In October 2021, the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development announced the international tax reform proposals to address base erosion and profit sharing, abbreviated as BEPS 2.0. A global minimum effective tax rate of 15% will be introduced on large multinational enterprise (M&E) groups with global turnover of at least 750 million euros. Hong Kong will implement the global minimum effective tax rate in accordance with international consensus so as to safeguard our taxing rights and maintain the competitiveness of our tax regime. The government has been closely liaising with the trade in this regard while closely monitoring the implementation plan of other jurisdictions. Hong Kong plans to apply the global minimum effective tax rate on these large M&E groups and implement the domestic minimum top-up tax starting from 2025 onwards. It is estimated that this will bring in tax revenue of about $15 billion per year for the government. We will launch a consultation exercise to allow M&E groups to make early preparation. Disposal of equity interests. We will strive to maintain our simple and low tax regime, the core competitiveness of Hong Kong, with a view to attracting more enterprises and talent to do business or pursue careers in Hong Kong. In this regard, the government will put forward an enhancement proposal in mid-March to provide clearer guidelines on whether onshore gains on disposal of equity interests are subject to tax. The initiative will not only facilitate business expansion and restructuring through disposal of equity interests, but also enhance tax transparency, lower the compliance costs of businesses, increase the competitiveness of Hong Kong's tax regime, and enhance the attractiveness of Hong Kong as an international investment and business hub. Medium-range forecast. The MRF projects, mainly from a macro perspective, the revenue and expenditure as well as financial position of the government. For the year 2023 to 24, the real economic growth rate between 3.5% and 5.5% is adopted, and therefore 2024 to 25 to 2027 to 2028 is 3.7% per annum. During the above period, the average annual capital works expenditure will exceed $100 billion, while the recurrent government expenditure will grow at a rate between 3.3% and 5% per annum. The ratio of total government expenditure to GDP will gradually fall from about 25% for 2023 to 24 to about 22%. Regarding revenue from land premium, the forecast for 2024 to 25 and onwards is mainly based on a 15-year average ratio of revenue from land premium to GDP, which is 3.7% of GDP. I also assume that the growth rate of revenue from profits tax and other taxes will correspond to the economic growth rate in the next few years. Overall, the ratio of government revenue to GDP will gradually increase from about 21% for 2023 to 24 to over 23%. In addition, the MRF reflects the proceeds from the annual issuance of government green bonds and infrastructure bonds worth approximately $65 billion in total. I will explain the details a little later. Based on the above assumptions and arrangements, after taking into account proceeds from issuance of bonds and repayments, with the exception of a forecast deficit in 2023 to 24, the consolidated account will turn to a surplus in the coming 4 years. There will also be a deficit in the capital account from 2023 to 24 to 2026 to 27, which will turn to a surplus in 2027 to 28. As Hong Kong is susceptible to the influence of external political and economic environments, given its fully open and externally oriented economy, government revenues fluctuate rather substantially. The operating account is therefore estimated to record a deficit in 2023 to 24 and 2024 to 25, which will turn to a surplus in the subsequent years. The above forecast is not taking into account any tax rebate or relief measure that the government may implement over the coming 4 years. Fiscal reserves are estimated at $983.7 billion by the end of March 2028, representing 25.6% of GDP, or equivalent to approximately 40 months of government expenditure. Public Finance, Article 107 of the Basic Law. Our economy remains sluggish in the past few years because of the epidemic, resulting in huge fiscal deficits. Some people have raised concerns as to whether the government's fiscal management conforms to the requirement of Article 107 of the Basic Law. Article 107 states that the government should follow the principle of keeping the expenditure within the limits of revenues in drawing up its budget, and strive to achieve fiscal balance, avoid deficits, and keep the budget commensurate with the growth rate of its gross domestic product. I would like to offer some views here. Hong Kong is a small and open economy with scarce natural resources. It is therefore unavoidable that our economic performance is susceptible to external forces. When the external environment worsens or a natural disaster occurs, the downward pressure on Hong Kong's economy will intensify, which may result in a substantial drop in government revenue. The primary policy objective of the government is striving for the well-being of the people. To this end, we need to launch counter-cyclical measures during economic downturns to stabilize the economy and safeguard people's livelihood, so as to relieve the pressure on them. With an increase in expenditure and a decrease in revenue, the government will record a fiscal deficit. In times of an economic upturn, government revenue from tax and other sources, on the contrary, will increase, while the need to increase expenditure will also be less imminent. A surplus will be seen under such circumstances. Therefore, in analyzing the government's financial position, we should look at the entire economic cycle rather than focus on a short-term performance. The government financial position has been volatile over the past 2 decades or so. Some may consider that the government runs a structural surplus during economic boom and slips into a structural deficit in times of economic downturn. There are limitations in either one of these conclusions as they are based on observations of short-term performance. In my opinion, it is more appropriate to assess the government's financial position on the basis of economic cycle rather than individual financial year. Since Hong Kong's return to our motherland, we have passed through 3 economic cycles of varying durations, with the most recent one being the longest, lasting for more than 10 years. Level of fiscal reserves. As to the appropriate level of our fiscal reserves, public opinion also varies. Some people think that the more the better, while others are of the view that the government should not keep excessive social resources, but allocate them to the people in the market as much as possible. And in this way, higher economic efficiency will be achieved. I think that our fiscal reserves have several functions, including first, as savings for rainy days, that is, keeping a certain amount of savings for use in times of adversities to support our people and enterprises, thereby maintaining social stability. Second, helping safeguard financial stability. Third, generating investment returns. These returns from our reserves are one of the important sources of government revenue. The proper use of a reserve facilitates the development of our economy and industries. Taking Hong Kong's previous financial position in times of adversity as a reference, I consider that our fiscal reserves are currently maintained at a prudent level. Bond issuance. Through issuance of bonds, the government has been fostering the development of our bond market and attaining other policy objectives such as financial inclusiveness and promoting green and sustainable development. In fact, the government's outstanding debts remain at a low level, currently accounting for only 4% of GDP, far lower than most of the other advanced economies. Against this background, Hong Kong should make good use of the room for bond issuance to support and expedite economic development while creating capacity and investing for the future, with a view to enabling early sharing of the fruits of economic development with the public. Green bonds. The Government Green Bond Program, GGBP, which has won considerable acclaim from international investors since its launch, has become a benchmark for issuance of green bonds in the region. The government will further expand the scope of the GGBP to cover sustainable finance projects. The HKMA will announce the details in due course. Infrastructure bonds. Infrastructure is one of the key areas for sustained economic development and improvement of people's quality of life. I propose the setting up of an infrastructure bond scheme to enable us to better manage the cash flow needs of major infrastructure projects and facilitate the early completion of projects for the good of the economy and people's livelihood, so the members of the public can enjoy the benefits early. Meanwhile, we will also explore public participation in bond subscription for our people to develop a sense of participation and a sense of gaining the support for Hong Kong's long-term development projects. I will introduce the relevant proposals to the Legislature in 2023 to 24. Even with further bond issuance in future, we will still strive to keep the government debt to GDP ratio at a relatively low level, which is expected to remain below 10% by the end of the MRF period in 2027 to 28. I have to emphasize that we will continue to adhere to the fiscal discipline of keeping expenditure within the limits of revenue. Proceeds from bond issuance will not be used for funding recurrent expenditure. Mr. President, life has not been easy during the past 3 years, and sometimes we might inevitably feel disheartened. With the epidemic now coming to an end, we are free to travel again. Mega events are resuming one after another. I now see many happy faces around. As people start to reconnect with each other and cherish the moments they are spending together, I'm deeply touched by these scenes, which inspire me to come up with the idea of launching the Happy Hong Kong campaign that comprises a wide variety of events. I hope that people can share more joyful moments with their families and friends through participating in these fun-filled activities. Happiness can actually be found just around the corner. Over the past few years, more people have developed an interest in joining fascinating local tours. They have discovered the beauty of our countryside, the elegance of our historical buildings, as well as a wide range of gourmet food in various districts. Each discovery brings us a happy memory. If only we feel the things around us with our heart, we will see that there is so much to treasure in the city. Recently, I have made quite a number of overseas visits and received many visiting guests. It left a deep impression on me that many misconceptions about Hong Kong exist overseas. Often, such misconceptions originate from biased news reporting. After all, interaction between Hong Kong and the outside world has been hindered for more than 3 years, and many of those living overseas have been prevented from visiting Hong Kong. Henceforth, showcasing the new strengths of Hong Kong to the outside world is our top priority. In the midst of complicated and volatile international relations, it is all the more important that we stand firm in explaining the actual situation in Hong Kong and establish new connections and friendships. While we will strain every nerve to get the job done, your concerns and efforts in this regard are also crucial. History has taught us that Hong Kong people can always turn crises into opportunities in turbulent and stormy times and achieve still greater development. Under one country, two systems, Hong Kong's orientation and positioning in the global arena serve a crucial role. In spite of all the trials and tribulations, we still have many friends around the world, both old and new, who are always ready to offer us invaluable advice and suggestions. Our country sustains high quality development and adheres to the strategy of two-way opening up under the principle of reciprocity and mutual benefits. These, together with our country's staunch and robust support to Hong Kong, enable us to explore new markets and forge new partnerships in the current international landscape. Under the leadership of the Chief Executive, the new term government embraces a new paradigm and a new outlook by giving its all with vigor and competence. As stated by President Xi Jinping in his important speech on the 1st of July 2022, the next 5 years are important for Hong Kong to break new ground and achieve another leap forward. While there are both opportunities and challenges for the future of Hong Kong, opportunities definitely outnumber challenges. On this new journey towards the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation, Hong Kong has a unique and crucial role to play and an irreplaceable function to perform. I therefore have full confidence in the future of Hong Kong. Hong Kong people, as always, have no fear of challenges. In fact, challenges nurture greater creativity and capability. The story of Hong Kong in the past few decades reveals our success in overcoming one challenge after another, and each time scaling new heights. Each and every one of us has a place in Hong Kong's success story. We all need to keep striving for a better future for Hong Kong, contributing to its success. Fellow citizens, members, I can say with certainty that Hong Kong will forge ahead in this new era, on a new stage and along a new journey.
I now propose the question to you that the aforesaid bill be read a second time. In accordance with the rules of procedure, the second reading debate